you know, from time to time we like to sort of switch up where a message or a sermon might go as a way to inspire or bring depth to different parts of our service. And so before we move into the prayer known as Hoda'ah, our prayer for thanksgiving, where we sing Selah, a little potential for inspiration around this idea. Or you could cry. It is very upsetting, potentially, to change the order. So Cyrus is very upset about it. So a question for you, this being the day after Thanksgiving. I wonder how many of you had occasion yesterday at some point, likely around your Thanksgiving table, to share that for which you are thankful. Maybe raise your hand if this is something that you did around your table. No peer pressure, to that. That's okay. Maybe during the month of November, you posted a photo on social media and hashtagged it with the word thankful or grateful. I saw that all over my social media feed for the past month. Did you do that? Raise your hand, confess if you did it. Yes, yes, there you go. So a question, and we can be honest, but if we can do a little show of hands, I think it might be interesting. It's interesting for me, at least. That exercise of declaring that for which you are thankful, not feeling it, but speaking it, stating it, intoning it, is that something you do more than once a year on Thanksgiving or in the month of November? So raise your hand if you do that like at least quarterly. All right, Q1 through 4, good. What about monthly? Oh, well, it's a very grateful crew. Weekly? Daily? All right, yeah, so interesting. Good for you all who do that. I think that is a pretty great place for us to start. So on this Sabbath, one day after Thanksgiving, I want us to spend a little time in that place of how we show gratitude, how we give thanks, not just on the holiday itself, but on the 364 other days in the year. And in doing that, I'd like to invite us to focus not just on the idea of developing or cultivating an attitude of gratitude, but more importantly, on developing a habit of expressing our gratitude externally, more specifically out loud, and really thinking about how we do that. Because from the Jewish vantage, if not really from a universal one, more than enacting nearly any other character trait, it is the expressing of gratitude that can serve as a key for each of us to unlocking the doorway to a life of meaning and fulfillment at any point across the journey of our life at any age. And I can guarantee you it will be the very best Black Friday bargain you will find this year, or any year, because acquiring this habit costs absolutely nothing, but its reward is literally life-changing and transformative for the better, should you choose to acquire it. So who here knows the Hebrew word for saying thank you? Okay, so let's say it out loud if you know it. 1, 2, 3. Todah. Very good, or Todah Rabbah, right? Thank you very much. And that word comes from a larger word, Hoda'ah. Most commonly, Hoda'ah means gratitude, but it also refers to a different concept. It refers to a concept of a concession of owing something to someone else. Think about that for a moment. It's a little strange. Gratitude on the one hand, owing a debt to someone else on the other hand. So given those two concepts, I want to invite us into a similar notion in the English language. So think about the word appreciate. Everyone knows this word. You don't have to have any sort of Hebrew school nightmares to deal with this one, right? So on one level, appreciate can be an expression of gratitude, what I'm grateful for, as in, I appreciate what you've given me. But on a different level, it can mean I understand, as in, I appreciate the distinction between this and that, what have you. And in English, those two meanings are intuitively connected. I can only be grateful, appreciative, if I first understand or appreciate the gift I've received. So back to the Hebrew, how is gratitude tied to an admission of debt? perhaps even more importantly, why? So from a Jewish perspective, gratitude doesn't just involve a feeling. It necessarily involves an admission, an acceptance, and ideally an embrace of the reality that we are in fact dependent on others for whatever it is that we have or we experience. We are part of a community that cares for and relies on the caring of others, whether we recognize it actively or not. And a practice of gratitude reminds us that we are not the sole authors of what is good in our lives, but rather that we in fact owe a debt to something beyond ourselves for whatever good it is that we experience. Perhaps the one to whom we credit can be God, or a parent, a teacher, a friend, luck, a partner. It doesn't really matter, because whatever it is, that can remind us that each of us is not a private universe to ourselves, but rather all of us are part of a larger universe in which we are connected and to which we are all responsible. Gratitude matters so much, not just because of its many benefits to us as individuals, and there are many, many benefits to us as individuals, but more so because gratitude sits at the heart of what it means to sustain a society. And each of us in that is responsible for doing our part. And all we have to do to activate this awareness is look around us, recognize the good and how it came to us, and here's the harder part, intone words of gratitude that articulate this truth. I'm thankful to my family for loving me unconditionally. I'm grateful to my friends for helping me feel known and understood. I'm thankful for my job that it allows me to pay my bills and have food at my table. I'm thankful to God for enabling me to live and reach this moment. You see how it goes. It's kind of formulaic. It doesn't have to be fancy, but it does have to be true. Because it is that expression of that truth in the form of gratitude that holds the key to opening each and every person's heart, something we really need these days in our world, and something that's been needed since the creation of humanity. Our modern world and our modern sensibilities may try to convince us that our self-worth is tied up in our ability to do it ourselves, to go it alone, that self-sufficiency should be what matters most. But our spiritual sensibilities, they know better. Jewish self-worth is rooted in the idea that our ultimate value, our greatest fulfillment, comes from being part of a community built on a model of generosity and caring. Not independence, but interdependence, and even more so, just straight dependence on each other. And make no mistake, the dependence on that which is outside of ourselves, this is not a weakness. What it is a demonstration of our understanding of the greatest and deepest truth that is most abiding, that we are never really alone. Ultimately, being grateful and expressing it is core to what it means to be a Jew. In fact, the Hebrew word for Jew is Yehudi, that very same root hoda'ah. It means to give thanks. So that lets us know just how important a practice of this sort of gratitude should be to us, not just on days with football games and high-fat snacks and everything else, but each and every day. So I want to invite us to make a commitment to ourselves and to each other to keep our eyes open to the blessings that abound in our lives all the time, in the easy times and in the hard times too. They are always there. And when we see them, to speak them and to give thanks to their providers. If we do that, will change the way we experience life, not only for ourselves, but for everyone we encounter on the way. In a virtuous cycle of gratitude and thanksgiving, may that be our blessing together.